Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to go off on one a little bit. I want to see if I can show you a beginner's exercise, which I find is good for everybody. The thing we're doing when we're teaching beginners is trying to break the golf swing down into as simpler explanation as possible, and at the same time give them a feeling for what they're supposed to be doing with the golf club and eventually with the golf ball. But first of all, the golf club. How do you swing a golf club? So what we actually do is, first of all, just get them to hold the golf club as their hand is hanging by their sides, so that basically they're gripping so far down the shaft that the toe of the club is on the ground. Then hold the club in front of their lead thigh and hinge it up, and then release it. And hinge it and release it, so that they actually have a feeling of getting the club up in the air by using the wrist and then releasing the wrist angle and feeling how gravity will just basically swing it back down where it was before. The extension of that exercise is quite simple. Hinge the wrist and swing the arm back to the trail thigh. Let the arm swing forward and release at the same time. Now, first of all, they don't realize what's happened there. But what they've done is they've used two levers. The arm moving around a joint in the shoulder and the wrist. And the weight of the club and gravity allows the club to swing. There's a major change, however, happened in the swing. When they are holding the hand in front of themselves and just using the wrist joint, then they're creating an arc in the club head, which is more or less like a half circle, with the deepest point in the half circle directly under the joint. Simple, really. That all changes in the moment that you get them to move the arm across their body to the trail thigh, hinge and release both at the same time, because the arm actually changes the shape of the club path. Rather than it being a circle, it suddenly has a flatter beginning and bulges out. It means in the truth that the wrist doesn't actually get back to straight till after what was before the bottom of the arc. You have like a bulge out here. In fact, because of the forces of nature, you can then get them to grip the club longer. If they were to do that with the first exercise, then obviously the club would simply dig into the ground because the club is too long. However, you will actually find that if they do this with the second exercise, the club won't dig into the ground because the wrist is not yet totally extended. This gets even better when you start to introduce the shoulder movement. By moving the lead shoulder back and around as they release the club and the arm, you are actually accelerating the arm movement, therefore accelerating the club and using more of the inertia in the club. Same position and turn. Obviously, it's a good idea to get them to turn first so they know exactly what you're wanting to do with them. But hinging the wrist, swinging the arm back, letting go and turning will actually get them to a point, and I'll try it here from the side so you can see me from both cameras. That's not very good. You can see here that actually, if they allow it to, the club will hinge the wrist and the wrist will hinge the lead shoulder, and the club will swing nicely over the lead shoulder. All starts to get a little bit more complicated when you get them to put two hands on the club. The reason for this is simply that the trail hand wants to dominate, the trail hand wants to accelerate. So they've got to get used to allowing the trail elbow to bend a little as they hinge the wrist, release the arms as before, and turn through to the following end position. You can even start to introduce a little bit of spine angle here, and even get them to try and accelerate the rotation. They might now actually feel this kind of throwing feeling, as if they were throwing the club through the ball rather than just letting it fall. Because as the body accelerates, they are in fact throwing the club. They're just not letting go of it. This movement can then be extended by not just moving the arms back to the trail thigh, but lifting them up and making sure that they get a feeling for where the club should be and what angle it should be. Not pointing vertically and not pointing totally back, but more or less at the same angle as it had at address. And that means that when they move the club back, they are going to have to pick up their arms and hinge the club into this position. Now, you might have to work with them a little bit in doing this, but once they actually get to that position, the same thing is true. They want the feeling of dropping the arms and turning their body to the target, whilst always trying to get them into this end position. If they can get the feeling of the club swinging through its arc and brushing the same bit of grass every time, then they won't have as much fear if you put a ball in the way and ask them to do it with the ball. Really, this is all that a golf swing is. It's using three main levers: the club, the lead arm and the shoulders, where the shoulders and the lead arm are creating the swing and the club is following the swing through the ball. Now, we can talk about the intuitive acceleration, we can talk about using ground forces and all of this, but really the first trick for every golfer is to get a feeling of how a golf swing swings, or how a golf club rather swings, and what swings it. It's being swung by a combination of forces created first of all from your body and arms, which is passed down then to the club. And that's what you've got to try and get a feel for and an understanding for. And I believe that this is a drill that even advanced golfers can do, especially if they've lost a little bit of kind of the feeling of swinging the golf club. If they've got far too much involved in hitting with their arms, accelerating the club, as we all tend to do in the course of our golfing careers. I hope this helps you. If it does, please smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that. A big thank you to all of the patrons who support the channel. If you'd like to become a patron, there's a link for that below. I'll see you all next Sunday. Goodbye.